From the Fans Talk Podcast family at fanstalkpodcast.com, this is episode 30 of Fans Talk Lucha, and today we're going to talk about the final episode of Lucha Underground, Ultima Lucha Part 2, which aired on Wednesday, August 5th, 2015. Yes, we are a week behind. My name is Garvin, and with us, as always, is my wife. Say hello, wife.
Hello, wife.
Once again, this episode of Fans Talk Lucha has been brought to you by our friends over on Patreon. To become a Patreon subscriber and a member of the Squared Circle of Trust, you can head on over to patreon.com/fanstalk and pledge your support. Every little bit will help, and again, you can get those links over at fanstalklucha.com. So before we begin, we should acknowledge that we are quite a bit late at getting this out.
Late.
Schedule conflicts, and we kind of alluded to this as we were recording the last episode. There was a lot of stuff going on in our personal lives, and then we got sick, and yeah, the wife is still sick, so we'll see.
I'm on some 2-year-old codeine cough syrup right now, so I'm feeling no pain.
Regardless, it was well worth the wait, by far. Ultima Lucha, the part 2, some of the best wrestling I think that we have seen all year. And that's a lot to say considering this is Lucha Underground, and Lucha Underground has kicked ass as far as a wrestling show, as far as a TV show all year. So, yeah, this was a wonderful episode. If you haven't watched it, if you're listening to this and you haven't watched it, why are you listening to this?
No one else hasn't watched it, honey. It's just us.
I'm imagining there are still some people out there that haven't watched it yet. We cannot be the last ones.
No, I'm pretty sure we failed the hardest.
All right, so let's just go ahead and we'll run down the results and give our feedback and thoughts as far as what took place. This week we had a guest commentator, Mike Chiavello. He joined commentary. They said that he had commentated for about 4,000 different matches in MMA and wrestling, and I've never heard of this dude before, but overall, what did you think about him?
He had an accent, and that surprised me. I'm used to not being able to differentiate between our two different commentators, and so hearing a different voice was a little startling. I kept thinking, oh, who's that guy?
Yeah. Actually, I think when he first appeared, you said, quote, "Who's that asshole?"
Did I?
I'm pretty confident.
Well, he was quite nice, so I take back my insult.
My only issue with him was just the fact that it was like their voices were so similar in tone that it was hard to tell who was talking. I mean, once they started to get into it, you knew. I mean, okay.
See, I have that problem with Vampiro and Stryker. I always have a hard time telling them apart until I actually get the gist of their commentary. But their voices to me are so similar.
It seems like Stryker tries to match Vampiro's accent. Stryker really tries to push that the Spanish sounding. He's not a cracker like I am, right? And he can get that tone very well, matching Vampiro. Tonight, I didn't feel like he carried that. He kind of went back into...
It was nice, though, because one thing that bothers me is when you hear someone with a totally kind of straight Midwest accent trying to overpronounce words that are foreign to them. That irritates me to no end. I don't like it when I watch the cooking channel. I hate it when I'm at work. I don't like it on commentary. So, in a sense, it was nice not to be distracted by that.
Chiavello was good though. I thought he added a nice secondary voice to everything, and I think they kind of did the color commentary and the play-by-play. So yeah, it was a nice mixture.
I did miss the smack talking though. I mean, Vampiro's fun because he does a little smack talking. He gets into
you didn't have that same rapport either, so no one was calling each other brother. They were just calling the action.
It's a good thing we didn't actually do a drinking game because we would have been stone sober.
So, okay, first match, Johnny Mundo versus Alberto El Patron. Again, surprising that this was your opener, but for me, this was a very good opener. We saw a lot of good stuff from both of these guys. I don't know. I'm not speaking for you, but for me, I thought this was the best that we've seen out of El Patron since he's been in Lucha Underground. This was a good match for Johnny Mundo as well. It was a nice mixture of his styles as far as the high flying. You also have his brawling style, his
parkour.
There we go. That's the term I was looking for. His parkour style. So yeah, I thought overall this was a good match.
Well, I agree with you. I usually find these guys a little bit boring. I like their segments. That's always fun to watch. But in the ring, they just kind of don't wow me. Occasionally, they'll whip out a really sweet pin or something. But in the middle, it's a lot of punching and slapping. But this was the most active I've seen them. And it does help that they were given the freedom to run around the ring. Mm-hmm. But I've never seen them so mobile. And I know I said a few times during the match that I just couldn't wait for their feud to be over because I'm tired of watching them just fight each other. But if they had to go out, this was a good way for it to happen.
Yeah,
and I kind of wish they'd done more of this during the season.
Yeah, it was a great feud ender for sure. Lot of energy, lot of drama. Surprising, Melina basically returns to the scene. This is the first time we've seen her in Lucha Underground. You would have had to known her history with Johnny Mundo, or when he was in WWE, he was John Morrison. But they talked about it, briefly, kind of vaguely, that they had that history together, but that's what they're referring to.
That was the low point of the match for me. I don't know who this woman is. She came in kind of out of nowhere. It was quick and dirty. It wasn't even a good coming in out of nowhere. It was kind of, she came in and beamed someone with the belt, and that was her role in it.
Yeah.
And it was kind of an anticlimax to the rest of the match.
Yeah, on one hand, I like that Lucha Underground will reference to things that we as the American audience knows, which is WWF or WWE or TNA. But at the same time, this didn't totally connect because, yeah, it's been 5 years, and realistically, the tail end of John Morrison's career in WWF or WWE, they were separated. She was fired like a couple years before he left. So to me, this was kind of awkward knowing their history and knowing that they split, So I don't know, but.
Is she a good wrestler? Do you recall?
No.
Okay. So kind of weird and pointless to bring her back.
No, I wouldn't say that. I think if they told the story better, they kind of explained it better. And this was brief. This was like a 2-minute thing, and then we'll learn more next season.
If they had hinted up to it, though, it would have been okay. Like if in maybe a previous match or two, he'd hinted at this partner, you'd seen him talking to someone on the phone who was going to help him out. Like if they'd foreshadowed for it at all, I would have felt more comfortable with it. But it just seemed like a cop-out ending to me.
I do have to say, Alberto El Patron's blue and gold look was very good.
I love the boots. Those vintage boots.
Yeah, we had, basically it was blue pants.
Panties.
They're called something, but I can't recall what they're actually called. Blue boots, but it's like gold trim. I don't know, just looked good on him.
Yeah, he looked pretty fly.
But yeah, we saw Mundo basically get his revenge we got El Patron getting his revenge on Mundo by throwing him through the glass.
Johnny Windows.
And that was pretty cool. Blood everywhere, with Mundo just being put through the glass. So.
We were hoping it would happen again.
Yeah.
Johnny Ventana, that's what we're going to call him.
All right, so backstage, Dragon Azteca comes to break out. Black Lotus, Cueto stops him and reminds him that if Dragon Azteca entered into the temple, according to the prophecy, according to the treaty, he was going to have to die. So he goes to pull out his brother. Dragon Azteca's like, whoa, dude, like, we don't have to go there. And Black Lotus strangles him.
Well, she did believe, and I don't know that Cueto was telling the truth, but she did believe that he had killed her parents, so kind of understandable.
It's odd, basically because she was kidnapped, right? All right, she was kidnapped by Dragon Azteca. She was with him for weeks, months, right? And he had her that entire time, and she was believing his story the entire time. And then one message from Cueto to her saying that Dragon Azteca was the one that killed her parents. That's all it took.
Well, now she was in that cell, Cueto's cell, for quite a long time. What this shows to me is that this is a woman who is easily kidnapped and who is easily swayed. She's the next person we're going to see drinking Kool-Aid in a cult.
She's
not a strong individual.
She's going to believe whomever has the ability to kidnap her.
Yeah.
That's like her side.
Yeah, she might be physically strong, but mentally not so much.
Yeah, so I'm kind of confused of where this is going, but basically she kills Dragon Azteca. Cueto's like, we got to get out of here. You just started a war, and lets out his brother, and the three of them walk out stage left.
This actually makes her a good weapon, though, because if someone could get control of her, just keep her in miserable situations and throw food at her once in a while, they could get her to do whatever they want. Like, this would make her a good pawn in the future.
Maybe.
If someone else were to kidnap her.
No, I'm not necessarily arguing with it. I just don't, this is the most non-compelling part of the story. It's like, I didn't care about her when she was kidnapped by Dragon Azteca. I didn't like the story then. Now that she has killed Dragon Azteca and shown like this weird character, inability to see good versus evil, or I don't know, like make proper decisions with logic. It's just weird. But I do like Cueto. Cueto's the man.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay, so yeah, they all leave together, and that was pretty cool. We did not see the brother, but
we heard him.
Yeah.
He growled a lot. He sounded like Kevin Hart.
Vampiro versus
Kevin Nash.
Kevin Hart. Vampiro versus Pentagon Jr. in a Cero Miedo match. What'd you think about this?
I love Vampiro's entrance. He had the ecclesiastical costume. He
Bishop.
even had a walk, like a character walk, the tilt to his head. It was eerie. It was very good. Like, they kept referencing him being this great wrestler, and I don't really know wrestling, so I just took it at face value. But to watch him slip in a character like that was really thrilling.
Yeah,
he can act. Who knew?
Yeah, I don't know much about Vampiro. I wasn't a huge WCW fan, so I didn't see a lot of him there. I knew he was there. I might have seen one or two matches, but it was more of like I was aware of Vampiro, but he was never a focus of mine when I watched WCW. My focus was on the Stings and Flairs and Hogans and NWO and all that stuff. So regardless, yeah, Vampiro comes down in all black and purple, with that Bishop outfit. Again, awesome. Then you have, Pentagon Jr. in all white. It was really odd, like, that they did that. Very, very, very cool. Very symbolic. So, but yeah, it was, I wouldn't necessarily say it was an okay wrestling match, but I think it was a good storytelling match in that, the commentating team kept talking about how Vampiro hasn't wrestled in a decade. He's had all of these surgeries on his neck. So if he takes one wrong move, he's out. He could be paralyzed. So the first thing the Pentagon Jr. does, hits him with a few chairs, runs him around the crowd, and then throws him on his back on the concrete. And basically that was the match before we went to the break. And they were really pushing the idea that Vampiro was hurt. This was, I don't know, to me it kind of felt weak. Like it was a weak way to end the match, but I still liked it.
I agree. I was expecting more wrestling, even though I knew that Vampiro wasn't, logically was not in the kind of shape for a high skill match at this point. I still expected a little more out of that, but just the first half of the match, I think, was leading up to him coming back.
Yeah, and that's what we got. So after the break, Vampiro breaks away from the stretcher. Yeah, he was taken out on the stretcher, so he ripped away from the stretcher, wanted to finish the fight with Pentagon Jr. They went at it. More chairs. There was a flaming table. There was thumbtacks. There was fluorescent light tubes. There was blood everywhere. I think this was like your first match with this kind of stuff. It was
a hardcore match. I don't really like the hardcore stuff as a general rule, but I think it was a good concession to a guy who couldn't do a lot of stuff that could have caused other like muscular or skeletal injuries. Watching those lights get broken over their heads, though, it was horrible. I kept thinking, I hope they are immediately going in the hospital and getting an antidote for mercury poisoning.
Yeah. No, it's definitely dangerous. Plus, it's shards of glass.
Well, those shatter. I was thinking of their eyeballs. I don't know. I don't know how they do it. And you're going to have to explain something to me.
Yeah.
When they do fire stunts, they set the table on fire and they roll through the fire. How do they protect themselves? Are they wearing wet shirts? How does that work?
It didn't look like it was a wet shirt. Honestly, I don't know. I mean, to me, usually what we've seen is that it's a really weak surface, like a flammable surface. So as soon as that breaks, then the fire goes out.
Kind of like when you set your dinner on fire and as soon as the alcohol burns up, it's gone.
Yeah, it's usually like that. So you only have it for a limited amount of time. However, this was a lot different because there were still things in the ring that were on fire.
Yeah, the ring was on fire. His shirt was still burning.
And his pants were burning. I mean, this went on for a good 10, 15, maybe 20 seconds.
They did have a guy right there with a fire extinguisher, though. I don't know that it was supposed to happen that way, though. I think the fire was supposed to go out before it did.
Yeah, so, yeah, usually it seems like the fire goes out fast. Because it's more of a visual than an actual happening. But yeah, this seemed like it went on for way too long.
It did. I think that maybe it was not supposed to go on that long.
So Pentagon Jr. put Vampiro through the flaming table, got the pin after Vampiro rolled out of the ring. And
shocked me.
Yeah. It was definitely not the way I thought the match would end. But it was good.
It was a great match.
After the match, Pentagon Jr. says that he did what his master wanted. Now he wants his master there. Vampiro climbs back into the ring and tells Pentagon Jr. to break his arm.
Okay, right there. I know that we all know that the arm thing's a gimmick, but that was the stupidest looking fake arm break I've ever seen. Come on, Pentagon. You had one job.
No, I mean, he's done better, for sure. But I think it was also just the way that Vampiro took it seemed kind of awkward.
It was also, I think, the close-up camera. In the past, the camera has not been that close, so it...
Regardless, Pentagon Jr. broke Vampiro's arm. Vampiro sort of looks like he's in pain, but then gets up and starts talking to Pentagon Jr. again. Pentagon Jr. wants his master, and Vampiro's like, well, as your master, I say you did a good job.
Surprise!
So, yeah. So, Vampiro is Pentagon Jr.'s master. This is something that was discussed in the YouTube comment thread.
They kneel and exchange hugs. Yeah, it's very touchy-feely.
Yeah, it was like...
You expect a drum circle.
Yeah, it was like, oh, now I get it. And Pentagon's like, totally like they're besties now. It's kind of weird.
I wouldn't let my bestie break my arm.
Yeah, I don't know. You would think that Pentagon Jr. would question it, like, this doesn't make sense. Give me some time. Let me think about this.
Just like you think Black Lotus would question, oh, wait, he killed my parents?
Wait, Quado's the good guy? All right. So, anyways, but it was a good match, good story. I do like the idea of Vampiro being Pentagon Jr.'s master. I think it fits.
This opens up some new writing, which is good, which is what we wanted.
Yeah. But where this takes it, though, puts me into a weird spot because I really started liking Vampiro on commentary. I don't think you can have Vampiro on commentary anymore. I think he has to be alongside Pentagon Jr. in some capacity.
Well, this might not be a long-term thing either, though. He might do this and then snap out of it and be back in commentary. I think, you know how I was pointing out to you, he had a character walk? Like, his whole persona changed. He really got into it. I think when he was looking at the mirror and smashing his face into it, we saw that too. So I think this Vampiro Ian Hodgkinson thing, I think we're going to see more of it. And I think one of them can be in the ring and can be a badass. And the other's going to be in commentary and is going to be a nice guy. And I think they could work it. Not immediately, but I think, they can do a storyline and he could probably come back. I think that leaves them a window for him to come back.
Yeah.
A Johnny window.
All right. Next match. We have Big Rick, who also was wearing the short
panties.
Yes.
Manties.
Bengala versus Sexy Star versus Jack Evans versus Aerostar versus Phoenix versus King Cuerno for the Gift of the Gods Championship. This was a well put together match as far as allowing us as viewers to be able to focus on the smallest amount of things at one point, at one time. So
it didn't start out that way.
No, I mean, there was your mix of chaos as they were all, healthy at 100%. But as the match went on, it started to become one versus one. You had some stuff on the outside, but a majority of where the camera was focused was on those 2 to 3 individuals that were in the ring.
I love the way they set it up. So you had 2 people go. They each showed off an awesome move we hadn't seen before. It was almost like an exhibition. Everyone brings like their coolest thing that they do. And then, a third person would come in and interrupt it. And then it would be another pair.
Yeah.
And so we saw some very nice moves we hadn't seen before. I love, I don't really like Jack Evans very much, but I like his bridge moves that he does. It's
right.
just, they're interesting pins that you wouldn't think a pin would be interesting, but he makes it look very neat. Sexy Star versus Moth was fantastic. She was just very good, especially considering she was fighting a guy twice her size.
Yeah, Marty the Moth came down to get his revenge, failed, because that's Marty the Moth. So, I think the biggest spot was the Arrow Star drop from the ceiling. Basically, in the middle of the match, all of a sudden, Arrow Star is shown. They said 3 stories up. I didn't really see what he was on.
I don't think he was quite that high, but he was.
But he dropped on 3 people.
Not even in the ring, onto the floor.
Yeah, and it was cool. But I think the failure was that they didn't show him until just before he fell.
It would have been cool if we'd been able to see him if they'd pulled the camera back so you could really get the height of it. Something to show why this was so important, why this was so, why he was up there. I mean, when you had, Angelico fly from the top of, Cueto's office, I mean, we knew why he was up there and we could see how far away the ring was. And this, we just didn't have that great of a perspective. What about Big Rick slamming Sexy Star into the ring? Oh. That was brutal.
He, I think, I don't know the proper name of it, but it's basically like a rock bottom, but,
he did it
standing.
from his full height.
Yeah, his full height, rock bottom where he stays standing. It's almost like a choke slam, but he dropped her so hard.
Yeah, that was painful. It sounded painful.
Man. But yeah, Phoenix won. Phoenix won with a fire driver, which is something we don't see very often in wrestling. It's basically your sit down tombstone pile driver type move.
It was very cool, and it was a good win. I'm happy with Phoenix as a winner.
So yeah, it's not totally surprising. I think Phoenix is one of the hottest guys there as far as the amount of energy that they've put into him. So, I think he was definitely a favorite going in. Next up, Tejano versus Blue Demon. And basically,
this match disappointed me.
Yeah, this was lame.
We've been calling it the Who's More Mexican match. I kind of expected it to be I don't know, somehow more cultural. They'd sit down and take a citizenship test or something like that. Or, they would, I don't know, maybe have music, or they'd get on the mic and they'd talk about their families or something.
Trivia or something.
Yeah, I just expected more. It ended up being a stupid gang fight.
I expected a wrestling match, and this was
Chavo being Chavo.
Yeah, so Chavo came out and hit Tejano with a chair.
Of course, he hit him with a chair.
And then that was it. I mean, there wasn't much wrestling to this. The crew got involved. They were wearing suits, which I guess was a nice upgrade for them. But overall, it was filler.
I was disappointed. This was, I think, the worst match I've ever seen on Lucha Underground.
I know this match is supposed to be important. They have so much history together as far as family versus family, as far as what they've meant to the business. They should have built it that way,
and they did not.
And they've said it, but to me, it just didn't feel as important as they were trying to make it out to be. And for them to do this, it reinforces that.
We knew it was going to happen because we'd seen Chavo and the crew, behind the scenes with them. But I was hoping that they would have a smaller part.
Yeah.
And it was just disappointing. I would be happy if we never saw Chavo or the crew again. At least not as these characters. If they came back doing something different, I would be fine with it. If this were tough enough, I would vote them all off.
Let's not talk about that, Jill. All right. Main event time. We have Puma versus Mil Muertes for the Lucha Underground Championship. This, to me, was not only match of the night. This, to me, was the best match that I think we've ever seen from Mil Muertes. This is the best match we've seen from Puma.
You think?
Miles above Mil Muertes versus Phoenix, the first match.
You think?
We saw Mil Muertes doing a spinning power slam. We saw him do an up and over in the corner. he was moving around really fast.
I agree. This is the best I've ever seen Meal wrestle, but I still think that first casket match was my favorite so far this series. But regardless, this was a great fight, and I didn't know Meal could move this way. He did some things that were fast. He didn't just lumber around like a bear in the ring. Like, he proved that he's got some energy, and we have not seen that before. And I could watch Puma all day. He's just beautiful to watch. He's such a gymnast.
It was just awesome to see that how, like, evenly matched they were. You didn't expect that going into this. You expected another regular Mil Muertes match where he just overpowers his opponent and destroys him. And while he did some of that against Puma, Puma always fought back, not as your underdog, but as your strong champion. So, yeah, I thought
they were evenly matched in this.
I thought this was a fantastic match. Ended with a super flatliner, which is something we have not seen from Mil Muertes. Mil Muertes kicked out of the 630. Puma kicked out of the regular traditional flatliner. But yeah, this was awesome.
So Meal won, and I'm glad he did. I think he had to for storyline purposes, and he did a great job. It was a good match, yes. But for storyline purposes, I'm disappointed at his clean, honorable win. They've been building up Katrina as this person who is in charge, really almost in charge of Meal. You know, she's got this stone of power, and she's got the skeletons, and they're her puppets. And I expected her to have a bigger role in this match, and she really didn't. Her biggest role was when Puma picked her up and used her as a weapon.
Well, she was holding that rock. Every time that Mil got down, she held the rock up high.
It was too subtle, though. I think the way they've been building it, I expected to see more, and she was really a sideline character. So from a storyline point, I was disappointed in the way it ended.
I am the opposite. We've had our shenanigans with these guys for the last couple of weeks. So last week we had them take out, not last week, I'm sorry, the final show before Lucha Ultima Lucha. We had the Skeletons and Mil and Katrina take out Conan. That was your shenanigans. That was them taking out all of Puma's support. So to me, that was your cheating side of things. Now this match, I think it needed to end cleanly because you needed to make Puma look beatable.
Yeah. I could see that. I still think that Puma of the two of them is the better athlete, but this showed me that Meal can step it up. And what I expect of him now in the upcoming season is that he will do better wrestling. Like, now he has raised my standards, so I hope he can keep up with that.
So, final set of scenes of this week's Lucha Underground were both awesome and incredibly depressing. Because you basically had everyone's, like, ride off into the sunset. You had Cueto and Black Lotus grabbing a bunch of money and paperwork as they ran out of the office.
They got out of Dodge as Katrina and the Skeletons and Meal took the ring in power.
Yeah, you had Phoenix riding off in his Trans Am.
He should not drive with that mask on. It's hard to see in those luchador masks.
There was a guy in a truck that I didn't really get a good look at, but I thought it was King Cuerno because I think so. I think that's what we've seen him ride before. You had Team Fight all leaving on motorcycles with
Son of Havoc riding bitch to Evilise because he's a real man.
Yeah, that was very nice. Then you had Drago and Aerostar flying off into the sky.
How good was Drago's makeup for the 5 seconds he was on camera?
They gave him like this really demonic voice, and I could have sworn he has spoken before, hasn't he?
He's spoken before, and he has not sounded like that. No. But his mask was all metallic.
Oh,
and
yeah, it was
even
cool.
His mask was demonic, and he walks off in the fire, and you think they probably had so much money left over in their budget they had to use, and they spent it all on his costume and his pyro there.
And then, after all of that, you had what seemed like someone picked up Dragon Azteca's mask, put it on, standing on top of the roof. There's a Lucha Underground billboard, and he spray painted a question mark on it.
And then we had a scene with Marty the Moth talking trash.
Oh, yeah.
And you see Sexy Star tied up like she's in a cocoon, and he's doing the moth thing with his arms, the wing thing, and he's saying, "You won't like when you meet my sister."
Oh, so
he
cool.
He is fabulous. I love him.
They just had like the lights swinging, and
it was like an interrogation
so cool.
scene. Yeah.
It was very cool.
He was very menacing, but also funny. He was doing this lunatic laugh. I really like him as an actor, and I hope we see more of him as a wrestler.
I like him as a wrestler and as a person. Okay, so overall, that's the end of Lucha Underground.
And we saw the face of the brother.
Noel, he was wearing a mask. You only saw
like one of those leather
eyes.
It kind of looked like one of those Ninja Turtle masks.
Yeah.
Like the real patchy leather kind of.
Yeah. So, okay. Let's talk predictions.
Let's not.
Again, here is your results for Ultima Lucha. The Machine defeated Mac. The Disciples of Death defeated Team Fight. Drago defeated Hernandez. Mundo defeated El Patron. Pentagon Jr. defeated Vampiro. Phoenix is your Gift of the Gods champion.
He's got 7 medallions, y'all.
Blue Demon Jr. defeated Tejano, and Mil Muertes is your Lucha Underground champion. So, predictions for those. With 4 out of 8 correct predictions, we have tied.
Oh, but we had placed a bet on this.
There was bonus, though. Yes, we bet the winner, the loser buys a pizza. So we both had 5 correct picks. You picked King Cuerno to win the Gift of the Gods match. I picked Sexy Star. You picked El Patron to win. We both picked Mac to win, and that was it. Oh, and I picked Tejano to win. So there.
I had also at one point predicted that Chavo was going to come in with a chair, and I think that should count.
Right, we had bonus. So the first bonus was what was more likely. Chavo hits a chair, we see Cueto's brother, or Pentagon, or we see Pentagon's master.
We saw all 3 of those things.
Technically, we saw all 3, and we both had them in the same order. So, that's still a tie. So, let's talk match of the night. What was your match of the night? And again, we're just talking part 2.
Gift of the Gods.
Gift of the Gods?
Yeah. I saw a lot of new stuff. It was great.
Okay. You predicted that Vampiro versus Pentagon Jr. was going to be the match of the night. I predicted that Puma versus Meal was the match of the night. So, because that is still my match of the night, technically, I've won.
I'll buy you a pizza, but it's going to be a shitty pizza. It's going to be a Domino's pizza.
That wasn't the only set of predictions that we did. I looked back, and episode 19, so FTL030, we did some more predictions. It's basically middle of the season kind of predictions. And basically those predictions were, is Meal the guy to take the title off of Puma? You said no. I said yes. Will the Skeleton Crew take the trio's title off of Angelico, Son of Havoc, and Ivelisse? You said no, and I said yes.
I wish you could see the smug look he's shooting at me.
Will Pentagon Jr. break Sexy Star's arm? We both said no. By the way, you said no to all of these. Will Drago return to take out Aerostar? We both said no. Which I think we're both technically wrong. He did come back and do something. I don't really remember. Will Alberto El Patron become the new face of Lucha Underground? We both said no, and I think we're pretty accurate there. So, okay. That was Lucha Underground Season 1.
What was your win fail?
What? I'm not done. I guess my win is going to go to Mil versus Puma. I mean, that was the match of the night. But overall, I got to say, Lucha Underground was my win. Again, they produced a great show. They had that one issue for me this show, and that was the filler of Blue Demon versus Tejano. I don't understand the importance when they're not showing in the ring that this is important, you know?
Yeah.
So I guess that would be my fail as well. What was your win?
My win was using Katrina as a weapon. We've seen them use all sorts of things as a weapon, but never a person.
Yeah. A fail?
My fail is the end of the first match when they brought in that woman that realistically none of us would have known who she was if we didn't know that she was a wrestler in another program. Yeah. I thought that was a crappy way to end what could have been what had been up to that point the best match we'd seen between those two guys.
All right, so overall, That was Lucha Underground Season 1. We saw everything. Probably, well, not probably, by far, the best wrestling that I think I've seen on a consistent basis. Every week we went home, we walked into the rest of our house thinking, man, I wish we could watch more of this.
I wish we could binge watch it like House of Cards.
Yeah, we both watched every episode. And really 30 straight weeks. Well, we did have that little break, but there was 30 straight weeks that you watched Lucha Underground. Do you regret?
No, this is great. That very first episode you were watching when I saw Sexy Star getting beamed in the face with a chair and I sat down, I've not stopped watching.
Yeah.
We used to do e-fetting. It's something I wish we would do again. And I didn't know anything about wrestling, but I loved reading people's stories. People would build these great characters and stories. And that was all I needed. And I get that from watching Lucha Underground. It just so happens that the wrestling also happens to be fantastic. Even if it wasn't, though, the characters and the stories are so good that they could stand alone.
Yeah.
It's something for everybody.
Agreed. Yeah, but if anyone is wanting something new to watch and haven't started watching, this is what I recommend. Anytime anyone is over on the Facebook group and they're like, hey, I want to introduce my girlfriend to wrestling, what match should I show them? Or what pay-per-view should I show them? And they're usually referring to something from WWE or WWF. But every single time I'm like, you need to show them Lucha Underground. You need to, if you want them to enjoy wrestling for what it is and what it could be, it's Lucha Underground.
Yeah. I mean, I tolerated it. I watched it. There were things I liked about it. I watched it a little bit in high school, but mostly I watched it because you watched it. But this was the first wrestling program where I'm not sitting there rolling my eyes like, oh God, is it over yet? This is the first one I've enjoyed. And actually, we're coming up with theories about what's going to happen next and where we want to see the characters go. Yeah.
So really, as far as the final thought goes, final thought is, I think we really need to all jump on the bandwagon. Right now, there's a hashtag, Netflix needs Lucha or something like that.
It's on Reddit too.
Yeah, you'll see it on Twitter. But basically, yeah, we need to hop on that bandwagon. Netflix needs to pick something up like this that they can show the first full season.
We want to show our support so that they can continue to produce this.
Yeah.
It's not available to a lot of us, through their network, especially not those of us who live in the Midwest, but there are other ways you can support it. They've been encouraging people to buy merchandise.
Yeah, definitely do that.
One way
that's
you
what
can
we're
show
going to
your
be
support.
doing as well. And the other thing is, we really need to thank everyone who has put on these shows, these episodes, took the chance to try to do something different. They merged the best of what we love about wrestling with the best of what we love about drama TV shows and comedy TV shows and all that stuff. Like they brought all the things that make great TV shows and wrestling shows together to this wonderful merger of ideas and video styles. They
listen to fan direction too. I mean, I can't think of how many times we've said something like, oh, we wish it would happen this way, or we'd like to see more of something. Not just us, but other podcasts and people on YouTube and people on Twitter. And the next couple weeks, and you'd see some of those improvements being incorporated. I know it's not real time, but that somewhere along the line when they were taping them, they were getting the same kind of feedback from the people who were part of that live viewing, and they were taking that into consideration.
So overall, that's it. That's the final episode of Lucha Underground. Most likely that's the final episode of Fans Talk Lucha for season 1. It's possible we might do another one in the next coming weeks, depending on if we get some good news from Lucha El Rey and Lucha Underground and everyone that's involved there as far as season 2 officially being brought back to TV. So we're obviously going to be watching everything that happens as far as the news goes, and if something breaks and he restarts this conversation, we'll definitely put out another episode. Don't unsubscribe, because we will have something.
We have something new coming up.
Yeah. So if you're subscribed to the main feed, there's something that the wife and I are working on that you guys might enjoy
along with
in the break.
With Joe from the main podcast.
Yeah, and but once season 2 is announced and comes back, which it has to, I mean, it's pretty obvious that there's enough fans supporting it that they will do something
and
else.
And they
in
have
season
sponsorship 2. With Miller.
Yeah. So now, I mean, it's pretty obvious, but we're going to take this break. We're going to let Lucha Underground take their break. And as soon as everything gets back together, we'll be watching and talking Lucha Underground with you. But that's all the time that we have for this episode of Fans Talk Lucha. But the conversation doesn't have to stop here. You can join us over on YouTube as we continue the conversation with you. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and Instagram. All of those links are available on fanstalklucha.com. We'll talk again as soon as we get some more news or Season 2 begins of Lucha Underground. Until then, we'll see you next time. Adios.
Adios.